Welcome to episode 233 of the Ages Podcast. I'm David Stewart. Today, we are joined by Dr. Mike Studer, internationally recognized physical therapist, brain health researcher, and world record-holding underwater marathoner. Yeah, that's right. Find out about that. Mike brings a lifetime of insight to the table, from helping people with Parkinson's and stroke recovery to unlocking the neuroscience of choice motivation and aging well. Here are a few clips from our discussion.
I tell people as a physical therapist, statistics are for populations. They're not for
Right.
people.
That's right. Oh, that's so right. Yes.
If I'm getting the option to make my choice, I'm more likely to stick with it, tolerate more intensity with it, give it a better option, and then also look for ways to ratchet it and make it a little bit more difficult.
Today, we will dig into the power of personalization in your health and how your genetics, environment, and even your beliefs shape the effectiveness of everything from sleep habits to HIIT routines. If you've ever wondered why your friend thrives on a certain diet or workout, but you feel worse, this is the episode for you. If you love what we do, share the love. Drop us a review. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on @WeAreAgeist, and forward this episode to somebody who needs to hear it. The more we grow, the more insight and inspiration we can share with you. Now, stick around. We'll be back in just a moment after a quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is sponsored by Fatty 15. Fatty 15 features the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years and is on a mission to restore your long-term health. Go to fatty15.com/ageist. Use the code AGEIST at checkout for 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit. Let's be real, menopause isn't just about hot flashes. It's brain fog, anxiety, mood shifts, the kind of stuff that can knock you off your game. And here's the thing, even if you won't ever have to face menopause, someone you love probably is or will be. That's why I want to share something, the Mindful Menopause Guide. It's a free, no-fluff resource created with mindfulness expert Diana Winston. It's smart, grounded, and actually helpful. No woo-woo, just real tools for clarity, calm, and confidence. Grab it now at meditatehappier.com/menopause. Trust me, it's worth knowing about. Ever have those days when your brain feels foggy, like the lights are on, but nobody's home? We've all had them. That's where Transcriptions comes in. These small, precisely formulated squares are designed by doctors to help you dial in your focus, relax when you need to, or keep your immune system strong. I've been using them lately, and the difference is impressive. I feel more focused at work, and I haven't gotten sick once this year. Head over to Transcriptions.com and use code AGEIST for 10% off. Your future self will thank you. Mike has an incredible new book out, The Brain That Chooses Itself, where he unpacks the science of agency, motivation, and longevity. He's also gearing up to speak at one of the biggest PT conferences in the country, sharing his thoughts on phenotypes, personalization, and wellness. Let's give Mike a call right now. Hey, Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing excellent, David. And yourself?
I'm good. Where does this podcast find you today?
I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, very outskirts and rural.
Cold at night? Must be. High desert, right?
36, yeah.
Give us a little idea about your background.
So I'm a physical therapist, have been for nearly 35 years. Primary interests have been in neurologic and geriatric physical therapy. I've owned clinics, worked in hospitals, spoken all over the world, primarily on Parkinson's disease, stroke, matters of dual tasking, cognitive function, balance, etc. I've been fortunate to be also on faculty at several universities and led some research projects. It's been a very diverse life as far as professional. Personal, I would just say I'm an endurance athlete and ageist junkie.
You're an endurance athlete. What does that look like?
It doesn't mean I'm as fast as I ever used to be, but I'm a multiple time marathoner, triathlete. We'll leave it at that. If you did some deep digging on me, you'd find that I hold a very odd record that's laughable. That is, I'm the world record holder for the fastest underwater marathon.
We're not going to go any further until you explain that to me. Underwater marathon?
So it's chest deep water, and you're on a treadmill that is underwater. So I've run it faster than anyone else 4 separate times. Like I told you, it was laughable.
That's really good. Okay.
Yeah.
You've increased my knowledge base. I'd never heard of the underwater marathon. Thank you for that. So
Yes.
you have a book called The Brain That Chooses Itself. Tell me about that. Why does my brain choose itself?
That's an excellent question to start off with. You want to choose yourself, obviously, for very primitive reasons, for longevity, right? For your own survival. You make choices in terms of things that feel safest to you, healthiest to you, feel that they give you the greatest amount of joy and happiness. We do that all of the time. What we're trying to do with the book is coalesce the facts that we know about health span and lifespan and give people the opportunity to make choices that they feel give them agency, support their beliefs, and then also increase the likelihood that they're going to stick with the choices that they made, as compared to we're going to legislate you do this, we're going to prescribe it for you, or we're going to guilt you into living this way. Much harder to stay with.
I mean, one of the things that we've seen is, which should be sort of like obvious to people, we all have sort of a band of options that we're willing to function within. And outside of that band, it's just a hard no. So you want to be able to go and talk to people where they're at and understand that, not everybody, clearly not everybody's the same, which is going to bring me to my next question here around personalization. And talk to me about, just before we got on the call, we mentioned something called SNPs. What's a SNP?
So it's a single nucleotide polymorphism. So that means that there are physiologic and genetically based reasons for an individual to have greater benefit from some of the choices that they make. Now, hopefully, our choices line up with our SNPs, right?
Right.
But at this point in medicine and science, we're just starting to learn more about single nucleotide polymorphisms, those very small changes and differences that we have in our genetic code that would cause us to be more likely to break down fiber well, to sleep at this time of night for this length of time, to benefit from this form of exercise, and so on.
That's right. One of the bugbears of my world is people who are, how should I say, prescribing, saying that you must eat this kind of diet or you must exercise this way, or, as Mr. Huberman says, oh, this is the stack and you do this, this, and this, and then this happens, and like on the full moon, this other thing happens. I don't know. I like Brian Johnson. I've had Brian Johnson on the show. He's a fascinating guy. What Brian's doing works really well for Brian and his SNPs. I have tried what he does. It does not in any way work for me. So how does one go about figuring these things out? Is it just trial and error?
In a scientific-based approach, you can learn a lot about yourself by not attempting to manipulate too many variables at once. So the short answer is, David, you've got it exactly right. Trial and error. The long answer is manipulating a variable. How do I feel after I eat a handful of peanuts, after a full Thanksgiving meal, after trying high-intensity interval training? You would hate to be the person that attempts to be a scientist to manipulate so many and not figure out what is the outcome and why is, or which variable is that tied to. So, there was an essential point right there in your commentary that we have to draw back on and really understand. You talk about prescription. And that's exactly where the SNPs and the personalization all comes in together. Right now, we don't have perfect science on SNPs, but we can do always an N of one, right? We're always our own best scientist and best prescriber. So in fact, that all comes in together and we say, okay, somebody told me I've got to do cold plunges and I've got to eat fiber and I can't eat sugar, etc. You want to manipulate one variable at a time, find out what your response to is that, and usually you're looking at performance. How well did I perform physically, or energy basis, or if there are any symptoms that are triggered from that. Those would be the three main things I would look at for an individual to try to be their own best N of one scientist.
So, as I like to say, feelings are not facts. And oftentimes, I know for me, I'm very influenced by what I think I should do and what should work. So, I'll just give the example like veganism. I really want to be a vegan and I try really hard. And I got to say, I've done this maybe a dozen times and each time it destroys me. But it's like, oh, I'm not doing it quite right. It's like, I've since given up this dream and learned like, no, I can't do that. HIIT training, for instance, if you're doing this 2 or 3 times a week, depending on who you are, this can be beneficial or very not. If we see other people doing it and we say, and it's like, oh, what's wrong with me? Maybe I just need to double down and be harder. I need to be a harder trying vegan when actually I should not be a vegan.
That's how my mind works. How do you deal with this?
You have hit at the crux of where we are with science right now. What you are describing comes right down to the placebo effect versus the beneficial effect of using autonomy, beliefs, and choice. All right. So if we stack up the placebo effect, you say, all right, because I believe veganism is best for me, therefore it will automatically be more well received by me, and I'll be more tolerant of exactly what you said, feelings that come with that, right? I feel like I've got more energy. I feel like I don't have bloating, etc. All right. So the placebo effect is there. It's something that will always benefit, even something that's a sham. All right. We should be able to agree on that. However, if you stack up autonomy, I've got the freedom to make a choice. Beliefs, I think these things are best for me. Then the actionable item, the ABC, I get to make a choice, and in fact, what you're choosing is not sham worthy, not snake oil, but something that's potentially healthy for you. Imagine now we get to actually take a placebo that's worth nothing and make it 15% valuable. Or I get to take something that's 15 to 20% valuable and make it 30% valuable because of these things. So I'm not going to be able to give you a perfect answer on this, because I will tell you human psychology will always offer a placebo effect, whether it is to help a sham out or to help a healthy item out. Here's the critical difference. If I'm getting the option to make my choice, I'm more likely to stick with it, tolerate more intensity with it, give it a better option, and then also look for ways to ratchet it and make it a little bit more difficult. So you get the benefit of consistency, the benefit of intensity, and the benefit of psychology that comes with that. I think running's healthy with me. For me, I'm going to do it consistently. I'm going to load myself with a 10-pound weight vest. I'm going to try interval sprints with it. So I get to all those different opportunities of running. I'm going to tolerate only because I think running's good for me. And you can do that with everything else: sleep, nutrition, social connectivity.
But Mike, I get it wrong. You know, my stubbornly failed veganism. I think this is good for me, and I repeatedly feel like crap from doing it.
You know what? You still have an exceptional question right here, because this is where we are, and we get an opportunity now to do something we never used to be able to do. We can gamify.
Okay.
So we can use measurements as the independent arbitrator of our opinions. So you could gamify and say, okay, well, all right, let's manipulate one variable. I am adopting a vegan-like diet, and I'm very strictly adhering to that. And I want to check my performance for the next morning or later on that afternoon. I get on my favorite, I don't care, Stairmaster, semi-recumbent, elliptical, or whatever. What's my wattage output? Okay. So you
Yeah,
can you can
that's right.
gamify. You
Yeah.
could gamify on things that, again, your opinion does not matter any longer. Now, the metric that is by
Mm.
your wearable, by the device you're moving on, or by some other measure gets to be the independent arbitrator. This is something we have the unique opportunity to do now. It's not perfect, but it is an independent, unopinionated arbitrator.
I mean, I'm somebody, I really like measurement. I call it well-ertainment. Sort of.
That's great.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know why, but I look at my Whoop every morning, like I have for, I don't know, like 5 years, to see how well I slept.
I'm a huge fan of behavioral economics, have studied it deeply, and have somewhat brought that to the rehabilitation field. So I do believe in an independent arbitrator, because psychology can be wielded, can be manipulated.
That's right. There's also this idea that, like, if we see something is working, and my back to me, I love talking about me. So the thing that's working for me right now is I've been sort of focused on lowering my resting heart rate, and
Okay.
which you can do, like in the course of 4 weeks, you can really impact it. And so I look at the morning, it's like, oh, wow, that's great. Look at that number. And so that like re-energizes me to keep doing more of this, more gamification. That's right.
And see, that just brings us right back through the last 3.5 paragraphs that we've talked about, right? So you get a dopamine hit because the choice that you made turns out to be measurably accurate delivers what you perceive as health and wellness. So you get dopamine and you get serotonin for that. And then anytime you continue to readopt some of the behaviors that you believe positively impact the lowering heart rate that you're shooting for, you're actually also getting oxytocin because you're making an investment in yourself. My future self, I'm giving you some health right now. So you get all three of those antidepressants, then you come back to that more regularly, exactly what I talked about several minutes ago. You're more likely to do it consistently because you get all of those hits. You're more likely to do it when it's seemingly that you don't have enough time or it's somewhat inconvenient. You're going to seek it out because you say, I got to get some of that in because it's healthy for me. You made choices for yourself.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Dr. Mike Studer after a message from the sponsors of this show.
Today's episode is brought to you by Fatty 15. The story here is that Fatty 15 co-founder Dr. Stephanie Venn Watson discovered C15 while working with the U.S. Navy to improve the health and welfare of aging dolphins. Just a little shout out to our super aging dolphin listeners out there. Her discovery marks the first essential fatty acid to be found in over 90 years. C15 is known to work in a few ways. It repairs age-related damage to our cells, it protects our cells from future breakdown, boosts mitochondrial energy output, and activates those pathways in the body that help regulate things like sleep and mood. Fatty 15 is on a mission to replenish your C15 levels and restore your long-term health. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/ageist and using the code ageist at checkout. You know, we've made huge strides in talking about aging, health, and longevity. But menopause? Still mostly swept under the rug, especially the mental side of it. Brain fog, mood swings, anxiety. It's real and it's rarely acknowledged. Enter the Mindful Menopause Guide. It's a free, no BS resource created by mindfulness expert Diana Winston. She's been through it. And this guide, it's not about pretending meditation is a magic cure. It's about using it as a powerful tool to navigate the turbulence with more clarity, calm, and confidence. This is about helping women feel supported, steady, and strong, not just powering through. Check it out at meditatehappier.com/menopause. You might not need it today, but someone close to you just might.
I try not to be prescriptive with people, but I mean, there's just like certain sort of obvious ones. You know, sleep is one of those things. Like, I just feel
I was
like
hoping you were going to say that.
sleep just seems so fun. I tell people, if you're not sleeping well, nothing else works. Forget it. I don't care what the supplements are. I don't care about anything else. This is not going to work. But there's a great deal of variability. What I'm learning from you is not just the amount of sleep, but the way the cycles work. And I mean, there's a lot of talk about, you know, my friend Dr. Michael Bruce about the chronotypes and such.
That's right.
But about the actual, like, what happens in the sleep cycle too. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what I say in the book is that sleep is the one thing that's different because you don't mess with it, right? So nutrition, we can get maybe a little bit more health if we sneak a little bit more time between meals sometimes, not all the time. Exercise or physical activity, if we mess with it a little bit, we're likely to tweak it better. We go for a little bit more intensity, one more repetition, or we last a little bit longer, right? Sleep is the thing that wants consistency. It wants regularity. And coming back to your reference to Dr. Michael, I would assume as though he would also agree that a person can have a bedtime, and those can be quite disparate across different individuals. Must go to bed at 9:30, must go to bed at midnight. As long as you stay about a half hour, there's some people that talk about 45 minutes or so, plus or minus your bedtime, what do you actually get? Well, you get that cellular chronotype, okay? And we get that benefit of, hey, I can reliably know that David should be releasing growth hormone about now, melatonin about now, cortisol when he wakes up about now. He's going to get his best opportunity to get into all of the various cycles of sleep because he's given us the opportunity to depend based on cellular clocks. This is exactly what it's going to be. So circadian rhythms, sleep, feeding, and even our activity, cognitive and physical, all prefer to have some degree of regularity.
So what I hear you saying is that of all the sort of major inputs, which I would say would be sleep, exercise, food,
Social connectivity.
social connectivity, maybe, like all of those you can experiment with.
Yes.
Sleep, not such a great idea. You want to keep that the way it is. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you could go longer without food than you could go without sleep.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think what you can do with sleep is you can experiment with what you're doing before sleep. Personally, I need about, I would say like an hour and a half is sort of the minimum of not high brain activity. I turn it off because otherwise I know I'm going to wake up at 2 in the morning thinking about it. So these sort of things that you do to prepare for sleep, I encourage people to think about. But that sleep, when you're going down and when you're waking up, that's a hard lock. Like
That's it.
that
That's
doesn't
it.
move.
You can manipulate sleep hygiene. So
Yes.
those would be the temperature, the darkness of the room,
Right.
the sounds that you've got, and people have very different preferences for having
Yes.
or not having white noise, etc. About what time you've eaten, when you've most recently vigorously exerted yourself. You can manipulate those, and they'll have some individual differences. I'll caution myself to not call those necessarily SNPs yet. We don't know for sure, but you're exactly right. If you can actually just always line it up to a half hour plus or minus your bedtime, that's actually going to be the most powerful thing.
I just want to say, back in the land of being prescriptive, you get a wide variety of, look at my buddy Brian again, who's like, oh, you shouldn't eat some crazy number like 8 or 10 hours before sleep. Like, okay, for you, Brian. For me, it's like, 2 hours, depending on what I did during the day. And if I think I'm really hungry before I'm going to bed, I'm gonna like eat some cottage cheese or something. Otherwise, I'll wake up in the middle of the night. So that's, hunger, my cortisol goes up and then I wake up, but that's me. It's not other people. And I think that,
That's right.
you sort of need to get to know yourself and become the best manager of your biology.
That's right. And if you had to, you can come right back to what we talked about 6 minutes ago, is let's use a metric. Okay, how's my
Right.
hemoglobin A1C doing when I eat right before my bedtime or distantly before? Now,
Right.
I think it probably is quite an aberration to say 8 or 10 hours before. And there's not too many hard and fasts about that. Caffeine would be one that would sneak up there as probably a little bit more of something that you could generalize across people, but people are going to metabolize it and receive it across their
Yeah.
receptors differently still.
Yeah. Interesting. So what I'm hearing from you is genetic testing. So
To the level that our science is accurate with it and can inform us. But yes, we're headed there, no doubt. Some places we're already there.
And then it gets a little complicated when you start talking about things like how well do you digest and metabolize fats. So then
Yes.
you got to layer in the bio and your activity levels, and very complicated algorithm, very complicated.
Yeah. And you know what? I very much appreciate the fact that you just brought in the biome into that, because you're exactly right. You do genetic testing, you're only testing what comes from your cells. Some people out there don't even realize the microbiome these are microorganisms that are not you. You can do several different things to influence the proliferation of them and the general health of them, but you can't genetically test for them.
Right, and they're variable. It doesn't
Right?
stay like your genetics stay static. Your
Yes,
biome does not, right?
but they influence us more and more and more than what we had previously thought. Every single week we learn more. I mean, short chain fatty acids, anti-inflammatory properties, the ability to deliver or create 90 to 95% of the serotonin in our body, all from your microbiome. And I could keep going on about gut brain axis, 90% going up, 10% coming down. We could talk about all of those things. And in fact, we know very little about these organisms.
Yeah, yeah, super complicated. Okay, Mike, so we've just confused people. What's your advice here on like how much testing and how much feeling and how much, because it's really hard, I find, to just pull out a single variable. I mean, in any normal person's day to day, you you probably got 1,000 of them. And it's really hard to keep the 999 static, and then you're just gonna like do this one, right?
That's right. And I'm not a person that will frequently go get lab values checked. I don't do sleep studies on a regular basis, etc. I'm an individual that is going to, and this is again just my choice, to be a performance athlete. I know my race times. I know my capacities. I know my splits. You're talking about your power meter on your bike. I identify with the same. Yesterday I did, again, a 4x4, same as you. So you have those abilities someplace in your life to be able to assign a metric.
Mm-hmm.
And what is your most important metric in your life? I would start by lining up, what you feel is most important to you. My ability to, how fast can I solve Wordle, whatever is important for some people. But you have metrics that absolutely are available for you to choose your most important. And I think that's where it comes into that layer of being your own scientist. The outputs, the outcomes, the results are up for you to choose. And so I don't want to confuse people. Here's exactly what I would say to answer your question. Find an area in your life where you feel that you've got some room to improve. Keep everything else as static as you possibly can, knowing that there's going to be some variability. You choose whatever aspect of your life you want to choose. And in the book, I outlined 5 of them. We've talked about most of them so far. Physical activity, nutrition, sleep. But in sleep, I talk about sleep, rest, and play. Okay, so we'll build on that potentially a little bit. Social connectivity. And then the 5th one that we haven't talked about yet is the benefit of actually intentionally putting yourself in challenging situations, environments,
Right.
or conditions, right? So you have 5 different things you could possibly choose. Pick one that you don't think you're optimizing right now, and then also pick what you think are your main outcome variables, and then just make the best scientific option you can. Because guess what? Even if there are variables you can't control, the fact that you're trying to do something that you perceive as healthy for you will be antidepressive for you. If nothing else, you will win in mental health by choosing yourself.
I'm glad that you brought that up. One of the the worst things you can do for your mental health is to feel that you have no choice, no agency. And the thing is, no matter what your circumstance, you do have agency.
That's right.
And, figuring out as we started this discussion, what is that latitude, that band of options that work for you? And, within any given of the various different modalities you talked about there, within those sectors, what's the band that you're willing to do?
And that's all you have to do.
And,
Is
and that's all
just
you
what
have to
you're
do.
willing
There's
to
nothing,
do.
and to not feel shame or feel, I just felt awful for like a decade being a failed vegan. I just was like, why can't I do this? I want to be a good vegan. I
Yeah.
should have failed. So, understanding that it's another problem I have with all this prescriptive stuff is that people will say like, oh, I just need to like double down, right, on whatever it is and I'll feel better. Well, maybe not,
Yeah.
just because somebody said it worked. And if you look at any of these studies, it's a data distribution. And the data distribution is, oftentimes a curve, sometimes it's a sort of a bulk in the center, but there are always dots outside of that. And I can absolutely guarantee you that all of you that are listening to this today, on one of those studies, you're one of those dots that's off the graph on the left or right. I guarantee it.
Yes.
And, it's like discovering that.
Yeah, because I tell people as a physical therapist, I tell people statistics are for populations. They're not for
Right.
people.
That's right. Oh, that's so right.
So
Yes.
that's what I tell people
Yes.
when I'm working with somebody. Okay, this is going to work for most people, but clearly it's not working for you. And you know what? People love the fact that I'm developing a health plan for them that has some individualized properties. David, everywhere that we're headed in wellness and health, in fact, will continue to improve as we personalize the prescription. So in 2 weeks from now, I'm lecturing at the largest physical therapy conference that we've got in Houston. It's called Combined Sections Meeting. And my speech this year is on phenotypes, on how different diseases present with different expressions, partially because of the person, partially because of social determinants of health, partially because of biopsychosocial attributes that this person believes. And what we need to do is improve our personalized prescription. We're not going to have precision medicine until we respect the personalized opportunities within that. Build it for someone, they're automatically going to appreciate. Oh, you built that pizza just for me? it tastes better.
I'm going to use what you said there. Statistics are for populations, not people. The idea of the phenotype. So phenotype is like a category of person. They all match up with a certain degree of characteristics or biomarkers. And the more that you can layer into that, the wider the variety of phenotypes, the greater success one has of being able to say, like, well, we should try this because you're like this. Yeah, I wish
Yeah.
that more people, I don't know. I know some people they just love PubMed as their idea of a good time. But if you go in there and you look at the way the data is presented, and in fact, I think you will very rarely hear a clinician. You will hear, this is the main difference I see between what I call the heroes of podcasting and they're oftentimes researchers. They are not clinicians, and they will be prescriptive because they lack the humility of understanding the difference between a person and a population, whereas a clinician will be much more humble about it. They'll say,
Yes.
well, why don't we try this? This might work. Let me know how you feel next week. Let me know what happened.
Yeah. And see there, David, in every sector of health and wellness, there will be people that find something that works for most everyone, and then they will either attempt to legislate or coerce or guilt everyone. Look, this is what's most powerful. Everybody needs to do this.
Right.
You're an idiot or a non-adopter
Right.
if you're not doing this. And in fact, the people that are in the trenches that are applying this realize you're right. That works for most people. All I want to do is find out if I've got that phenotype in front of me, if I've got that person, because in neurologic rehabilitation, one of the biggest things right now is high intensity gait training so that we can express BDNF for individuals that are recovering from stroke. And as a matter of fact, the research plays it out. It works extremely well. But David, what if I've got a person recovering from stroke in front of me that feels that evokes fear in them?
Right. Right.
Okay, I raise their cortisol rather than their dopamine and their BDNF. They're going to cancel their visits with me, are going to show up late, or going to regret coming, and it's not going to work. So I applied the best science. They just didn't adopt it. It's a bad patient. It's a non-compliant patient. You can start labeling people
Right.
rather than saying, I misappropriated this prescription to a person that was intended for a population.
Population. That's right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Very well said. Mike, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you.
And
My pleasure indeed.
your book is The Brain That Chooses Itself. We'll have a link in the show notes. Statistics are for populations, not people. That's the takeaway today.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for your time today.
That was great. Dr. Mike Studer reminds us that we are our own best scientists, that the path to optimal health isn't prescriptive, but personal. Find your metrics, trust your data, and most of all, choose yourself. Statistics are for populations, not people. Oh my God, I love that. If you've ever looked at any of these sort of PubMed statistical distributions, you see that that is very true. So much of what we hear in wellness is really this, one size fits all, do this protocol, this stack. And that just isn't the way it works. We know this firsthand at Aegis, since all it takes is one look at the comment sections of any of our pages to hear about the myriad of methods that our community members find success with. We love hearing about what works with you. Hell, let us know about it. We even ended up writing an article about it. Okay, my life today, early this week. Yesterday, in fact, I was in New York. Today, I'm in Park City for a few days doing some things here. And then next week, I will be in Las Vegas speaking at the Napa conference, talking about optimism, tracking, and wellness and finance. So that should be kind of interesting. Well, Las Vegas, I find, I don't know, as everyone says, it's a deeply odd place. But I do like meeting new people, and I'm such a jock. I love going to new gyms. So I'm staying at some fancy Marriott out there, and I only chose it because I like the gym. I just typed into ChatGPT, find me a hotel that's non-smoking, doesn't have gambling, and a great gym. And so this is what came up. So AI to the rescue. So that's where I'll be next week. So much going on here. My other endeavor, Super Age, just crossed 900,000 people, which is amazing. Ageist, we're running Gabby Reese this week, I believe, who's just, oh my gosh. I mean, I met Gabby once, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago in Venice, California, when I was living there. And she was teaching like a sort of a one-off class at Gold's Gym, and she's really a formidable, it's like, doesn't really do it for Gabby. She's an incredible human being. So looking forward to bringing that to everyone this week. We're going to get with Just Try This, our little weekly piece of wellness, after a final word from our sponsors.
We all want to think clearer, feel better, and perform at our peak, but brain fog, stress, and fatigue can get in the way. That's where Transcriptions comes in. Transcriptions isn't just a supplement company. They're a team of doctors, scientists, and biohackers creating pharmaceutical-grade, precision-dosed nootropics that help you optimize your mind and body. Unlike traditional supplements,
They're buccal troches.
those small, dissolvable squares bypass digestion and deliver fast, effective results. Whether you need deeper focus, stress relief, better sleep, or stronger immunity, Transcriptions has science-backed solutions for you. Some of their top formulas include TroCalm for instant stress relief and a sense of balance. They have TroImmune, which I use every day. It's a powerhouse immune and inflammation fighter with cordycepin to keep you resilient. There's Blue Canatine, a game-changing nootropic for sustained energy, sharp focus, and cognitive performance. Personally, I've been using TroImmune all winter, and I haven't gotten sick. Not only does it boost my immunity, I'm sleeping deeper, waking up more refreshed. If you're serious about upgrading your brain and your body, check out Transcriptions, because better performance starts with better biochemistry. Use the code AGES for 10% off at Transcriptions.com. That's AGES for 10% off, because you deserve to think, feel, and perform your best.
So this week on Just Try This, let's talk about stepping out of our comfort zones, being open to and even seeking out new experiences that can have a profoundly positive effect on your emotional and mental health. So, learning new things promotes neuroplasticity. So what's neuroplasticity? That means your brain can change. You can add things to your brain. You can make it grow. It's not over. In fact, studies show that individuals who are comfortable stepping outside of their comfort zone tend to have a higher self-efficacy and lower anxiety. Though deviating from your routine or throwing yourself into a new activity where you have to try, fail, and maybe try again can feel a little uncomfortable at first, the experience ultimately creates space for you to make mistakes and learn from them. We learn from our mistakes more than our successes. And it's from this that we can adapt to new situations. We build new skills. We broaden our perspectives, all of which fosters, guess what? Adaptability, resilience, and confidence. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick story. It's a true story about myself. When I was my mid-40s, I'm living in New York. I'm a middle-aged white guy, and I got it into my head that I wanted to learn African dance. Okay, I don't know where that came from, but somebody suggested that I go try this. So I did. And I went to the Geneva Dance and Drum Studio, which was on, I want to think it was like the 5th floor on 18th Street between Broadway and Park. And I go up there, and so there's like half a dozen African guys from Mali with live drums. Bah, 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 bah. And the whole room is filled with people very unlike me. So I'm the only white guy in the room, and I sensibly just stayed in the back and tried to pay attention and learn. And the other people in the room, some of them were professional dancers. They clearly had done this for a long time. And it was just unbelievably humiliating. I could sort of follow for maybe like 10 seconds and I'd be completely lost. The front row were these women from Fort Greene with whipping the dreadlocks around, and they're dressed in all camo, and they were just cool as all get out. And I'm, this dorky middle-aged white guy dressed in Nike in the back. But what happened was, after about 6 months, I kind of got it. And that was really something. So, hey, another fun fact. If you invite me to a wedding party, I'm really entertaining on the dance floor. Okay, that's all from us here at Aegis. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, review, and subscribe to the show. Drop us a comment. We love hearing from our listeners. We really do. Wishing you an inspired, energized week ahead. We'll catch you here next week. Everybody, have a great week. Take care now.